All right, welcome back. Hope you all had a great weekend. Today, we're continuing our RBT exam review, where we're going through a full RBT exam question by question and breaking down the questions, how you should think about them on your actual exam. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. If you're looking for our study materials, please check out rbtexamreview.com. We offer 3 full practice exams, a task list study guide, our combo pack, which includes everything. It's our best deal. And then, of course, our competency study guide as well. Those links will be in the comments and descriptions below. If you have any questions, please email me or leave that below. I'm happy to help. Other than that, work hard, study hard. Let's get to our questions. Question 1. Jordan and Joel are competing at Pebble Beach for the championship trophy. On hole 17, Jordan tells Joel he took 4 shots, but Joel says Jordan took 5 shots. Jordan goes through each shot and then says, "Yeah, you're right, Joel. I made a 5. What type of measurement did Jordan most likely use?" Okay, simple, continuous measurement question. When you're dealing with measurement, ask yourself, am I measuring an amount or am I measuring something to do with time? You can quickly eliminate some answers or answer choices if you determine that. So what are we measuring here? Well, we're going to be measuring an amount, right? Because we're measuring an amount of shots. Jordan thinks he took 4 shots, but Joel says he took 5. So what does Jordan have to do to verify how many shots he took? Is he going to take duration data? No. We just said we aren't measuring time, right? We're measuring an amount. So we can eliminate duration. We can also eliminate inter-response time because inter-response time has to do with the time in between responses, but we're just simply measuring the amount of responses. That leaves us with the frequency and rate. Now, as we know, frequency and rate are related. Frequency is simply a count. Rate is frequency with the time component added. Does the time component added matter here? No. All we're worried about is the count. Jordan counts how many shots he took. He says, I took 5 shots. So what type of measurement did Jordan use? He used frequency. Jordan simply counted how many shots he had. Walk through that process for these measurement questions as you're studying. It's going to become second nature, and these questions will become very easy, okay, the more you do. Remember, what's our rule in studying? We want accuracy and not speed. It doesn't matter how fast you go when you're studying, okay? You want to be accurate. The more accurate you are, the faster you'll get. Question 2. You're at a carnival with your friends. You walk by a game that requires you to knock down 5 milk bottles in order to win the prize. You tell your friends, I just want to see if I can do it. In relation to knocking down the milk bottles, what are you doing? There's a dead giveaway in this question, okay? If you've been studying a little bit, if you know your terms and definitions, you should immediately identify the giveaway. But if not, let's walk through it, okay? Let's look at A, engaging in avoidance. Are you avoiding anything? Is the function of your behavior escape or avoidance? Well, no, it looks like you want to engage in this activity, okay? Maybe to win this prize. You say you just want to see if you can do it, but you're not avoiding anything, right? So we can eliminate A. What about B, probing? Are you probing? What is probing? Probing is seeing if someone can do a skill or a task or a behavior, okay? You just want to see, quote unquote, if they can do it. Well, you say, I just want to see if I can do it. You want to probe your ability, right, to knock down these milk bottles. Probing is just, what is your level of skill before any training, any teaching, any interventions? So when we probe with our clients, we're not delivering consequences. We're not delivering interventions. We just want to see what level of skill they're at. You want to probe your milk bottle knocking down ability. B looks like our answer, but as always, read all of your answer choices. Figure out why the wrong ones are wrong. So C, shaping. Are you shaping anything? Well, if you are going to choose shaping, ask yourself, are there approximations of behavior? No. Shaping is reinforcing approximations of behavior. We're not doing that, okay? We're not reinforcing closer and closer to knocking down the milk bottles. We're just going to see if we can do it. That's all. So we can eliminate shaping. And then prompting. Are you prompting anyone? Are you prompting anything? No, there's no cue. There's no signal. You're just saying, maybe I can, maybe I can't. I don't have training. I don't have teaching. I just want to see if I can do it. So you're probing your ability to knock down the milk bottles. Every time a worksheet is given to Tim, Tim starts to hit his head with his fist. The teacher responds by telling Tim to ask for a break, which he does. Typically, the teacher will give Tim a 10-minute break. This happens most days in school. What is the most likely function of Tim hitting his head? So for function questions, you have to begin by knowing the 4 functions. The first thing you should learn are functions and reinforcement and punishment. Okay, that's the most important thing for you to know as an RBT. So what are our 4 functions? Tangible, attention, escape avoidance, and automatic sensory. Tangible is gaining access to an item. Attention is gaining access to attention. Escape avoidance is getting away from a stimulus. And then automatic sensory is something that doesn't need social mediation, and it happens because it feels good. So in this case, what is Tim doing, right? Tim is fine and is given a worksheet. He hits his head with his fist. He gets a break. What is Tim doing? Is he trying to obtain some sort of tangible item? Well, no, he's not trying to gain an iPad or gain reinforcement, okay? He's trying to get away from this worksheet, right? Based on the information given, that's what it seems to be the case, right? What about attention? Well, Tim doesn't seem to be seeking the attention of the teacher, okay? Because the antecedent to Tim's behavior is being given the worksheet. You really need to pay attention to antecedents when determining functions, okay? That's where you're going to start, right? What is the antecedent? Well, Tim appears to be fine, and then he's given this worksheet. All of a sudden, this self-injurious behavior happens. What's the consequence? He gets removed from the worksheet, okay? So what is our most likely function? Probably escape, okay? Now, we would need to do assessments. We would need to do direct observation to really determine it. But when you're just hypothesizing a function, what you're going to do as an RBT, you're taking your given information, okay, and making your best guess. That's all we're doing here, right? And this is a pretty obvious one, okay? If Tim engages in this behavior when given work, and then he gets out of work, Tim is pretty clearly escaping. Fill in the blanks. Positive reinforcement involves blank, a stimulus which blank behavior, and the negative punishment involves blank, a stimulus which blank behavior. I get so many questions about reinforcement and punishment, okay? So to some of you, this seems like, super simple question. If you're newer, this can be kind of tricky, right? We have to rethink what we know about reinforcement and punishment when we first learn ABA. What is our rule for reinforcement? Reinforcement increases, okay? Doesn't matter what it looks like, doesn't matter what it is. If it increases future behavior, it's reinforcement. Punishment is just the opposite. Punishment decreases. Doesn't matter what it looks like. If it decreases, it's punishment, okay? Now these words, positive and negative. What does positive mean? Positive means we're adding something. Negative means we're taking away something. So put that together. Positive, we're adding something. Reinforcement, to increase behavior, right? So simply fill in the blanks. Positive reinforcement involves adding a stimulus which increases behavior. And then negative means what? Taking away. Punishment means what? Decreasing. So negative punishment involves decreasing or taking away a stimulus which decreases behavior, right? So just fill in the blanks. Find our answer choice. A, positive reinforcement involves adding a stimulus which increases behavior. Negative punishment involves adding a stimulus which decreases the behavior. Well, obviously, adding is not negative, so we can eliminate A. B, positive reinforcement involves adding a stimulus which decreases behavior. No, because reinforcement increases, not decreases. Eliminate B. C, positive reinforcement involves adding a stimulus which increases behavior. Negative punishment involves removing a stimulus which decreases behavior. That's what we're looking for. This is the correct answer, okay? Read all your answer choices. D, positive reinforcement involves removing. Nope, we can immediately eliminate that, right? Because positive is adding. Pretty straightforward question, okay? If this question wasn't easy, go back, review positive reinforcement, positive punishment, negative reinforcement, negative punishment. Okay, these are the fundamentals. This is where you start. Again, studying for the RBT exam is not a race. Okay, get the fundamentals down and you're going to become much better at the actual exam. Next question. Which of the following answers is not a characteristic of a good behavior definition? What do we want in a behavior definition? Okay, we want something that we can measure. We want something that we can observe. And we want something that anybody can read and know exactly what we're talking about. Okay, we don't want to give a lot of opinion. We just want to give the facts. Okay, So a good behavior definition is what? It's A, observable. The question says not, though. Okay, so we need to be careful here. We're looking for a characteristic that is not part of a good behavior definition. Observable is part of a good behavior definition, so we eliminate A. B, measurable. Absolutely. We want our behavior definition to be measurable. If we can't measure the behavior, okay, we can't track it, we can't change it, right? So B, we eliminate as well. Now, subjective versus objective, okay? Objective is what we want in a behavior definition. This means it's factual. It's based on what happened, not our opinion. Subjectivity means it can change, right? It can change person to person, right? Opinion to opinion. We're not really giving our opinion on what's happening. We're trying to determine exactly what happened objectively. So which of the following is not a characteristic of a good behavior definition? It's going to be C, subjective opinions or subjective statements. Next question. If an RBT faces legal charges, becomes under investigation, or is involved in another event that requires reporting to the BACB, how long does the RBT have to self-report the event? Okay, this is one of those questions that are very rote, meaning you just kind of need to know it. It's ripped straight from the ethical guidelines, the new RBT ethical guidelines. I put these in here because I want you to be aware of some of these time constraints, okay? In the ethical guidelines, it talks about RBTs facing things that could possibly interrupt service delivery, okay? If you have legal charges, if you're under investigation for anything, or if you're involved in another event, maybe you got in a car wreck or you're sick or your parents are sick, whatever it might be, right? If it has a chance to interrupt service delivery, okay, you are required to self-report that event, okay? Meaning you need to maintain good standing with the BACB. So if you're not going to be practicing for long extents of time, we need to report that, okay? So how long do you have to self-report that event? 24 hours, 30 days, 3 months, or 6 months. Now, the only way you would know this is if you've looked at that ethical code. I'm not saying memorize the ethical code. I am saying you need to at least review it before your exam. I've got videos on it on my channel. Check those out. The answer here is going to be 30 days. When it comes to self-reporting events, which RBTs must do, okay, you have 30 days from the time the event happens to self-report. Now, these are extreme circumstances, okay? Legal charges, under investigation. It has to be something pretty serious to self-report to the BACB. But if you do come across that situation, you're going to have 30 days to self-report that event without action being taken. Again, just something to be aware of, something you just kind of need to know for the exam. There's no trick here, right? It's just part of the ethics. Don't let ethics beat you on the exam. I see too many RBTs get beaten by ethics. Don't let it happen, okay? They're simple. They're common sense. You just have to put a little time into reviewing them. BCBA designs an intervention plan targeting screaming behavior that utilizes extinction via ignoring screaming. The client's dad tells the BCBA that they are implementing extinction and are only giving attention to screaming every 10th time. What is the most likely unwanted consequence in this scenario? Extinction is one of our major principles aside from reinforcement and punishment. Extinction is very powerful, but extinction can lead to unwanted consequences at times. There are ethical concerns behind extinction. The primary rule of extinction is it needs to happen 100% of the time, okay? As close to 100% as possible, right? We need to try to do it all the time. If we can't, then extinction might not be right. And the reason for that is if you're not implementing extinction every time, then there's chances are you are reinforcing the behavior on a different reinforcement schedule. So in this case, the client's dad says they are implementing extinction, but are giving attention to screaming every 10th time. That's not very consistent, right? So what's happening now? Okay. The client is now screaming once, twice, 10 times before getting reinforcement. That reinforcement schedule is now shifting, okay, to where the client has to scream a lot to get reinforcement. It's not what we want, okay? So what is the most likely unwanted consequence in the scenario? A, nothing. Extinction is being implemented effectively. Well, we don't know if it's effective or not. We don't know what's happening to the behavior. However, we know it's not consistent, okay? And we need extinction to be consistent. B, the screaming turns into running away. Now that's a big leap from screaming to running away. There's nothing indicating in this question that screaming is going to turn into running away. This is most likely not going to be our best answer. Only use the information they give you. C, the screaming is reinforced on an FR10 schedule. Yes, right? If you are reinforced every 10th response, what kind of schedule is that? It's a fixed ratio 10. If dad is reinforcing screaming every 10th time by giving it attention, well, now that screaming is on an FR10, possibly worse than before. Again, why it's so important to implement extinction consistently. C looks like our best answer. What about D? The client injures themselves. Again, there's no indication the client is at risk to injure themselves. We're talking about screaming. We're talking about the client's dad implementing this procedure, okay? The best answer here is going to be C. The screaming is reinforced on an FR10 schedule. That's based on the information we're given. Jim wants his son to turn off the lights whenever he leaves a room. Jim will instruct his son by saying, "Turn off the lights, please." Jim now says, "Did you forget something?" when his son doesn't turn off the lights. Next, Jim plans to simply look up at his son when his son forgets to turn off the lights. Jim delivers reinforcement after each correct response. Jim is engaging in what? So there's 2 or 3 possible answer choices that I'm thinking of here, okay? See if you can think of a few before we jump in, right? We want to attack our questions, especially when studying, okay? Try to predict the answer. What is Jim doing? Okay, he's giving this very strong verbal prompt, "Turn off the lights, please." He kind of fades it a little bit, still a verbal prompt, but not as explicit. So to "Did you forget something?" Then Jim simply just gestures or gives a quick visual glance, right, up at his son, okay, when he forgets to turn off the lights, okay? So Jim is doing what, right? Is he probing? Is he shaping? Is he engaging in a stimulus control transfer procedure? Or is he functional communication training? Now, what probably first came to your mind was prompting, which is correct. You might have said fading, which is correct. You might have said most to least prompting, which is correct. All of those are correct, but they're not part of our answer choices, okay? The only one related to prompting and fading is going to be stimulus control transfer procedures. Now, this is on the task list, and it gives RBTs nightmares, right? It looks technical. It looks confusing. Stimulus control transfer procedures is essentially fading, okay? We want one SD to transfer control to another SD. For example, right now, the SD is "Turn off the lights, please." Jim wants that SD to go to "Did you forget something?" And then he wants the SD to become simply looking up at his son. Jim is transferring control, okay, over the turning off lights behavior from SD to the SD. That's what a stimulus control transfer procedure is. It's as simple as that. When we fade prompts, that's what we're doing, okay? When we fade or when we transfer control over the behavior from the prompt to the actual SD, we have done a stimulus control transfer procedure, okay? Don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate it. It's not probing. We talked about probing earlier. Probing is simply saying, can I or can I not do something? Jim is capable of turning off the lights, okay? He just doesn't. He needs some behavior change. Shaping, again, are there any approximations? No. And then functional communication training. Are we teaching Jim's son to communicate? No, right? So what is he doing? Jim is simply engaging in a stimulus control transfer procedure with his son, trying to transfer control of the behavior from "Turn off the lights, please" to "Did you forget something?" all the way down to simply a glance up at his son. If you're helping your client brush their teeth, but only guiding their hands and elbows as needed, and then removing the prompt, you are engaging in what type of prompting? Okay, so you're physically touching the client. So this is going to be what? It's going to be a physical prompt. Now, what specific prompting procedure involves only physical prompts and then fading that physical prompt as quickly as possible? Okay, is that going to be most to least, least to most, graduated guidance, or modeling? Now, it's not going to be least to most. Okay, if we're starting with physical prompting, it's definitely not least to most, right? Modeling, we're not modeling anything for them. Okay, most to least, right? We're only using our physical prompts. Okay, we're using graduated guidance. Graduated guidance is a specific type of prompting, okay, where you only use as much physical prompting as needed, then you fade immediately. You reintroduce prompting as needed, you fade immediately, okay? So in a way, this might be considered least to most, okay? Because you're giving as little physical prompting as necessary. But a more accurate way to describe just physical prompting as needed is a strategy called graduated guidance, okay? This is a good situation where we need the best answer, right? You could argue, well, maybe he's least to most prompting, but the better answer, which is actually describing what's going on here, is graduated guidance. And then finally, which of the following individuals could be considered a stakeholder as defined by the BACB? This word stakeholder throws people off, especially new RBTs. It sounds very professional, very serious, right? Stakeholder is just a fancy way of saying somebody responsible for or affected by the treatment, okay? The client is the person directly receiving the treatment of the services. The stakeholders are those people around them, right? The people in their lives that matter. Parents are the most obvious stakeholders, caregivers as well. So can a relative be a stakeholder? Sure, if the relative lives with them, if the relative's around them all the time, they have a stake in the outcomes of treatment. An authorized representative, such as a foster parent, a caseworker, absolutely. They also have a stake in treatment. An employer, right? Yes, if we have a person working for a company and that company has ABA services going on, remember, ABA is not just for autism, that employer has a stake in how their employees change. So which of the following individuals could be considered a stakeholder? D, all the above. All right, hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe if you did. Check out rbtexamreview.com for all of our study materials. Questions, comments, let me know. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.